It's a very bright and sunny day here in San Francisco. I'm glad to welcome you. But we have a wonderful panel to spread some sunshine and some ideas across you this morning. The title is Market Innovation. But we're going to focus on three particular areas. We're going to look at innovation from customer intelligence, how you talk to your customers, stay in touch with your customers, and get new ideas from linking with them. We're going to look at innovation from introspection, so looking inside your own company, the way you operate for ideas. And then we're going to have a third area, which is intelligence from joint inspiration, so working together with customers to come up with new ideas and new markets. So those three areas, and you'll be hearing about smart systems, smart genes, and smart packages, so lots of smarts coming on stage. And so you have the CVs of my panelists in your packages, but just very briefly, I'll introduce them. To my immediate left is Blair Christie, who is Cisco Systems Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer, and she has responsibility for all of the global marketing, corporate communications, and government affairs groups at Cisco. Next to Blair is James Curleigh, who joined Levi Strauss in July 2012 to serve as president of the Levi's brands, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. In that position, he's responsible for managing the strategic direction and execution of the brand. And with his team, he's focused on building Levi's strong heritage by identifying new ways to connect with customers around the world. And then last but not least, on the far side, is Raj Subramaniam, who heads up all of global marketing, product development, brand, and practically everything else from this CV at FedEx worldwide. And in his new role, he's responsible for setting the strategic direction of FedEx's global portfolio of solutions. So welcome to all three of you. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to have a 20-minute conversation, and then we'll open for Q&A from the floor. And let's take this first area, innovation from customer intelligence. It's sort of given as taken that everyone should be listening to their customers. Sure. But how do you derive from that intelligence, market actionable action to go and produce new products and services? Blair, how do you listen to customers at Cisco?
Well, at the very basis of innovation at Cisco is connected to two core tenets of our culture. Our culture is around customer advocacy, intimacy, building those relationships, and catching market transitions. And so that's been part of our culture for a very long time. We have $400 billion in an installed base, so we have a really rich place to pull from to get intelligence and to work with our customers. And we've been doing that for years. What's been really interesting lately is what we're doing with social media and how we're listening to our customers in social media. Remember, we're a B2B company, so we have a little bit of a different dynamic. And usually when people are talking about Cisco and social media, they have a problem, they have an issue.
So it's complaining.
Absolutely. And we found that if we don't go back and listen to them and talk to them quickly, it is, our competitors can get in. So it gives us a competitive advantage. So we listen to them, and we leverage all sorts of technology to do that, an experience platform as well as customer contact solution. And we go in and we say, what is the ABCs, right? Are they critics? Are they building buzz? Are they creating an idea? And based on how we look at those ABCs of the content, we then say, how do we action this? And we have a whole process and system in place to take that information, we literally nurture it, and then we move it through the organization. And the number of ideas and leads that are coming from social media, we're mentioned 7,000 times a day. For a B2B, that's pretty high. We actually get information that we never would have gotten.
And can you give us an example of something where you've listened and then you've acted?
Absolutely. So we had quite a few amount of interest in our telepresence solution in the education space. Telepresence is video conferencing, unified communications, bringing everything, voice, video, data together. And a lot of customers were asking about different implementations. They were learning from each other, and we learned, wow, that could be a way to not just customize some of the software, but to work closely and offer a solution that would hit that space. And I don't think we would have gotten that any other way but having that listening in the social space.
So that's specifically for teachers and
Absolutely.
schools?
Teachers, school, private, public, using a new way, creating a whole new business model to connect people and connect those things and drive a new solution for education.
Great, thank you. James, at Levi's, you obviously have customers telling you things all the time in stores and obviously on social media. Have you taken that intelligence in some ways to produce new products, new product lines or markets?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when we look at, we often try to find that one nugget of insight or something that will inform, but sometimes it's great to step way, way back and picture if you could Google map way out on yourself, i.e. Levi's, and say, what are some of the big challenges out there from a style perspective, from a sustainability perspective, from solutions that are maybe expected but not clearly identified by the consumer? And for the record, when we talk about consumer, by definition, we're encouraging them to consume. How about we just talk about them as fans? Fans of your brand, of what you make, are great because they become loyal, but they also will tell you what they expect next. If Levi's was a band, they'll tell you they love the album you created, but if the next one isn't so good, they don't buy as many, and then you better create a better album. So from our perspective, we actually, when you talk about information intelligence, when you step way back and you say, well, what does Levi's represent over time? I would argue that Levi's is the most sustainable apparel brand on earth. And it's not because of our actions today. Think about in the 70s. You had a pair of jeans. What happened when they wore out? You put patches on them. You kept them going longer. And then when the patches wore off, you cut them off and you made them into shorts. Or you put them into a used clothing store. We have the #1 market share in used clothing as a brand.
Right.
Sustainable back in the 70s.
And did that come from customers telling you that? No, you were doing that anyway,
That
right?
was your fans saying, I
Right.
want my jeans to last forever. This
Right.
is my favorite pair in my closet when I go to. So fast forward to this century, and we find ourselves in a position where we know that sustainability is an expectation. The majority of our fans have an expectation that we will take a lead on this. And then they don't really tell you what to do. They just say, please take a lead. And so when you stare down 40 billion of these going into a landfill, 40 billion, by the way, a year.
It's a plastic bottle.
Yeah, plastic bottle going into landfill, you say, is there a solution? Is there a style solution from a plastic bottle? And then you start working on innovation solutions, blending cotton, blending what is essentially polyester. Let's take you back to John Travolta and the 70s on polyester. And you start blending and coming up with innovative solutions that otherwise wouldn't have existed. We could take 8 of these with some cotton and literally turn it into our wasteless product. You wouldn't know if you tried these on. Gone are the days where organic hemp was uncomfortable, too expensive, but you felt good because it was sustainable. This is a pair of Levi's from our wasteless collection. 8 bottles plus cotton goes into this. So true solutions.
Fabulous, fabulous. I wanted to wear my Levi jeans this morning, and I got in. My daughter said, "Dad, you're not fitting in them," and she's right. So I think you should have another waist-less, W-A-I-S-T. So there's some consumer intelligence for you. Raj, tell us about FedEx, because I know there's a couple of areas where consumers have given you feedback. One particular about paper.
Well, I think we are an extremely data-driven company, and you collect a lot of information on a daily basis and also on a regular basis. And we also have listening posts, and I always believe that our own inventory is a lot better than the headquarters. So we get a lot of things. So one of the things we talked about was, as you just said, the paperless. We have a terrific global network. We fly our planes fast and get to the destination. But typically, as we get there, some of the customs clearance procedures are a little bit more onerous, and there's no point in hurrying up and waiting there. So we have basically created a whole paperless platform for electronic trade documentation based on customer feedback, and we have launched it in many parts of the world so that at least to the extent possible we can streamline that process.
And how big has that become? I mean, how much did it catch on? Did everyone say immediately no paper?
Well, to the extent that we can do it. So we're operating in 60 countries right now, and so
how many? Sorry, 60.
60, yeah.
Wow.
So we operate in 220 countries. So
yeah.
So it's available in 60 countries, and so to the extent we can do it, yes.
That's great.
Yep.
And is that something that when you started rolling it out, that consumers immediately took up? So you said these 60 countries. Did you have to really market it to the base, or was because the base had been telling you, you created that new opportunity very quickly? I mean, I assume it saves you a ton of money too.
It's a matter of awareness. That's all it was.
It's a matter of awareness. Okay,
once people got to use it, then they really understood the value pretty quickly. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we've got smart genes, smart educational telepresence, and smart paperless systems. Let's move on to innovation from introspection, so looking inside your companies to come up with ideas. James, let's come to Levi's again. There's another line that you have called the waterless genes line. Can you tell us a little bit, how did that come about, and what exactly is it?
Well, I think a lot of companies, we immediately go to the product we make and try to find a solution on the product. And we say, well, water's a big topic of sustainability, but it's also, we have to remember that I think the future is about not just coming up with the sustainable idea or solution, but understanding that good environmental sense can make good economic sense. If you think about water as a commodity, we pay for water. We all somehow pay for water, as we pay for other goods. So if you can balance those two, and what we recognize was sometimes asking the right question matters. It's not how much water does it take to make a pair of jeans, but in the complete ecosystem of start to finish, what happens? And what we found was at the extreme ends is where the most water gets used, not in the production of, but in the growing of cotton, and in, quite frankly, how our fans wash and use their product. So we took an end-to-end solution and said, let's work with the Better Cotton Initiative, of which 95% of our product is now uses better cotton, and that's a very specific program designed to be more efficient and effective with cotton growing. So that's the extreme end. But then the exciting end is creating hang tag care products for our fans.
What is that?
Wash it a little bit less. Hang dry it. Why do you need to, every time you wear your jeans, wash them? Think about how often the miners washed their products back in 1873. So truly trying to understand that the water dynamic is not in the production, it's in the entire life cycle. If we can come up with solutions at the raw material end, right through to the habit of how our fans wash and use, we can significantly reduce. We've sold literally 50, 60 million pairs of our waterless product.
Right.
So that's not only using the product for its intended good purpose, and you wouldn't know the difference from a style perspective, it's also then encouraging our fans to think about what they do with it after they buy it from us. And it's really worked. And we know the evidence is we had 1.3 billion hits on Facebook of positive support around, wow, Levi's, only you guys would think like that.
And that came from inside.
Yeah, it came from just us going, can we use less water?
And just give us a perspective, 50 to 60 million pairs of jeans, how much is that in the overall scheme of things?
It's moving into the majority of 95% better cotton, and it's moving into the majority of our product is now on our waterless program. So this isn't one of those tip of the iceberg. Wasteless is a starting point.
Yes.
But it starts as a starting point, but then the whole idea is it doesn't become a novelty marketing idea. It becomes a way of thinking, working, producing, and communicating for everything we do.
Very interesting. Blair, inside Cisco,
Sure.
you look inside, obviously lots of research and development going on. How do you bring through new market ideas?
Sure. Well, again, I go back to the core tenet of, or at least one of them of our culture, is really capturing market transitions, seeing around the corner. Cisco's always gone after very big markets to disrupt them. We did this before as the internet was coming online. One of the greatest market transitions we've ever seen is the creation and the application of the internet to commerce. And so a lot of work went on there. We took voice and put it on an IP network. That was a massive transition. We did that internally, recognizing the efficiencies and the opportunity, and also using it inside first before we took it to our customers. We call cap cases when you have a problem. We are on a cap case with Unified Communications for quite some time to figure out how to make it work internally as before we went out to customers. And one of the biggest transitions we see now is what you're going to hear about later on the Internet of Everything, where you take the internet of before and you bring people, process, data, and things together. And again, yet another platform. So back in the 1990s, we did a lot around Cisco on Cisco. We created the virtual close. And in '97, that was huge. We could close our books in a matter of 3 days. I don't know if you remember, I was in the investment world, right? It would take 90 days, sometimes 45 days to do a 10Q or a 10K filing. We could do it like that. So we took that Cisco on Cisco virtual close and went out to customers. We're doing that today, again.
And in the Internet of Things, are there experiments going on within Cisco where you're the guinea pig, or others are the guinea pigs?
And we're doing
what
a lot.
Are they?
Well, I know a lot of topics.
You can tell us.
Yes, I
Go
can.
On. Share it with the crowd.
Well, I know
they won't tell anyone.
You won't. This is just our friends,
just
right?
Friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, certainly, if you take a look at what we did with voice and moving that to Internet Protocol and putting that on a data network, think about what you can do with smart grid. Think about electricity and the underutilization of the assets, the fact that it's a one-way flow. Think about all the opportunity, again, to address sustainable needs around leveraging that kind of power. We're doing a lot around smart grid today. A lot of it came and started internally. We also went externally, which is your next topic,
right.
And brought insight in to think about how to use this IP or this internet protocol as a platform to connect people, to connect data, things, and processes, and create a lot of value and a lot of innovation.
That's great. Thank you very much. Raj, I know you've moved into the healthcare business in quite a big way, but before we go there, tell us a little bit about some of the internal things that you've done to innovate.
Yeah, well, one of the relatively unique things about FedEx is, we're going to be 40 years old in the next month, is the founder of the company is the CEO and chairman, and so there is the genes, not different genes, G-E-N-E-S genes. Innovation genes, is right there. And I think it's continuous for us. Way back when, in the 1980s, he basically said that the information about the package is as important as the package itself. And that was, it's 30 years ago he said that. So from there on, we've done a lot of things. Now, what I was going to talk about the recent examples. We for our business to be successful, we operate about 650 airplanes. But we also want to make sure that look at the carbon footprint and what we're going to do from a sustainability perspective to your point you mentioned earlier. So, and also we are involved heavily in the energy policy as well for the country, so we are looking at alternate fuels, biofuels, and trying to go to 30% of our fuels to be biofuels or alternate fuels by 2030. That's a goal that we've set for ourselves, and we're on our way. And I think it's very important from a sustainability perspective.
Is that a new market? I mean, will people say, I will only fly my packages with FedEx or a carrier that uses 30% biofuels, or do you just see that as sort of table stakes? We have to do this.
That's something we have to do. I think we have not honestly looked at it from a market perspective. You talked about introspection and looking at it from internal perspective.
Got it.
That's something we're going to do now. You may be right about what you just said. I think there may be we do get a lot of RFPs today from our customers talking about our sustainability plans, and I think we have an excellent platform for that.
Terrific, thank you. I want to make sure we have some good time for Q&A, but let's look at innovation from joint inspiration, our last area, where you work together with customers to come up with stuff. And this is, Raj, why don't we start with you and we'll work back.
Okay.
Talking about healthcare, as I said earlier, you've moved into the healthcare area, and there you've worked very closely with customers. Yeah. How have you done that?
Well, today, in many ways, speed and reliability is table stakes. That's something that we've done for years and years, and we have obviously a great track record. So the question is, okay, where do we go from here? It's really creating additional value for our customers and bringing customers and co-create some solutions for our customers. So, for example, we launched this platform called Sense Aware. It's about tracking, but in a whole another level of tracking. You're talking about tracking temperature. You're talking about geofencing. Healthcare sector is one of the sectors that's important, but it's applicable to many sectors.
And geofencing, just in case people don't know what that is, what exactly is that?
Geofencing, basically, the customer can set in such a way that if it crosses a particular geographic boundary, then they get an alert saying, so they need to know that it's in there so they can do something about it. Oh, no, it's not supposed to be there. And I'll give you a case in point. One of a commercial airline carriers was taking a very, very important life-saving equipment or a healthcare device to a customer, to a patient in Texas. And they said it's going to be in San Antonio, and they thought it was in San Antonio. Luckily, they had the SenseAware device, and the customer, the person who was shipping it, the thing woke up and started saying, "I'm in El Paso."
Oh wow! And, so you knew.
It knew, and the temperature was monitoring temperature and everything else, and then they had to rush it back to the hospital, and we got a fantastic email from our customer saying, "Saved another life."
Wow!
Wow!
So
that's fabulous.
That's where
new market.
Put a value to that one.
Save lives. That's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fabulous. James, Blair, either of you want to talk about co-creation?
Yeah, I mean, interesting. Like, who here goes to work every day? Who here has seen this notion of lifestyle. You know, we talk about, oh, are you a lifestyle brand? But when you look at lifestyle dynamics today, they're so much more multidimensional than they were. We tried to pigeonhole lifestyle and fans in certain ways, but take the commuting dynamic today on cycling. Who's seen more cyclists starting to commute? Is it for health reasons? Maybe. Is it for sustainability of not using, fuels? Yes. Is it for convenience because they don't want to park? Yes, yes, yes. But what we recognized was that this commuter who's typically urbanized wears athletic wear, and then we get to the destination, they then transform themselves Superman style into what they need to wear to work.
Right.
Why not come up with a style solution that's performance driven, that is one solution from commute to the office? So we stared this down for our own team as well, and we created this commuter series. And just with a few performance dimensions on denim, turning up your cuff with reflective, like this is a commuter jacket here, putting breathability in, putting a water-resistant coating on it, putting a U-lock place, putting a higher rise on the back so you're not that guy when you're biking. You know what I'm saying? You've seen that guy.
We've all seen those guys.
So taking that internalized dynamic and coming up with a commuter, but what's really interesting in a city like San Francisco is we get informed by and inspired by other brands who are young, small brands starting. And I have a colleague here, Chrome Industries. You ever heard of it? It's the cool seatbelt buckle company that the hipsters are using, and they're informing us more than our own fans of what the direction could be from a commuting dynamic. And we launched a commuter series, and cumulatively, by next year, it'll be a couple of $100 million platform.
A couple of $100 million, that's a new market.
I gotta know, is your target audience the men or the women? Because I'm gonna have a hard time riding my bike to work and stepping. I'm gonna have to do something with myself.
We will solve
have to
your
work
sustainable
on that together.
solution.
Do you want just briefly?
Sure, very quickly. You know, having that kind of installed base that I talked about earlier gives you a chance to get really close with your customers. So we've been doing a lot of collaboration. You know, we all go to work, we either bike or we drive in our cars. We're doing some work and have done some work with the auto manufacturers on what could you do in a car to connect it. This platform of the Internet of Everything creates massive opportunity for new ways and new processes. Can you connect so that you understand traffic routes so you can be rerouted? We're starting to see that with GPS, but there's more you can do. Can your cars connect to the stoplights if you're an ambulance? Can you create entertainment?
Together with the industry to work out what can be done in your car going forward.
Absolutely, and it is amazing the value that can be created. We were just talking earlier, we're working with a couple of partners of ours, one in the sports apparel world where they're trying to put sensors into shirts and then put them into stadiums so that we can create some interesting ideas and information. Problem is, stadiums are built from cement.
Right.
So how do you get the signals out? We're actually wiring stadiums. So in a three-partner way, we're looking at how can we create that and create a whole new opportunity for the fan experience and for sponsors.
Make sure you do Giant Stadium first.
Is
no
that
bias.
the one? Okay, I'm making a note.
Thank you so much. That was terrific. We want some time for Q&A, so can we get some microphones out? And I will do my best to see people. It's not quite easy here. No. Let's start one down here at the front. This gentleman in blue. Can we get... could you just wait for the microphone? There should be a microphone coming down. Yes, it's just coming here. And would you mind introducing yourself just as you ask the question? It's coming across. Here we go.
Hi, Paul Clemens with Deloitte Consulting. And my question for you is, working for a big company, very successful brands, how do you encourage risk-taking and not punish people for going out on a limb and failing?
Absolutely.
When, you know, you talk about, or the prior discussion was like fumbling around actually helps sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
So how do you encourage risk-taking?
Blair, do you want to go first?
Well, first of all, you have to do it. You need, one thing we do pilots after pilots after pilots. We do experiments. We are trying everything, whether it is how we organize and drive a sales organization to some of the technology internally. And we incent people to do it. We create funds around it. There's a whole bunch of ways to do it, but it has to be part of your culture. You talk a lot about failing fast. I don't know that Cisco fails fast all the time. I think there are places where we took a little too long to realize we failed, but that's part of the process, right? Change is required for progress. So culturally, top down, it's going to have to be something that's part of your DNA.
Raj?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I want to jump straight on that point. Culture is clearly key and critical. And, again, we are very fortunate to have at the helm of our company the founder, and, he's entrepreneur at heart today. And so it works its way down the organization. Now, obviously, we have some processes in place and to make it happen. And we have an innovation lab But ultimately, it is the culture. We, how we deal with it on day-to-day meetings and management, how we treat failures. I think it's culture is the key.
Yeah. And for us, I mean, we often talk about when Levi's is at its best, it lives on the edge of the modern frontier. And so when you think back in 1873, the modern frontier was gold mining. When you think about the 50s and Hollywood and James Dean and Marilyn Monroe and that whole Marlon Brando scene, edge of the modern frontier, rock and roll, Woodstock. So it's in our DNA as pioneers to try to find the edge of the modern frontier. It's getting trickier. The edge of the modern frontier might be digital. And I think in today's world, you can truly look at collaborations. You can look at small scale projects that you can launch. We have a retail base that we can test it in. We have an e-com platform that we can test it in. And it's amazing. You can see viscerally live what could go. Commuter started off as an internal project that, quite frankly, a lot of people said, why are we getting into performance? Right. Why are we getting into this? It was a challenge. It was an uphill challenge initially. Now everyone's saying, let's get more into it. You can't say, let's be pioneers, live on the edge of the modern frontier, but mitigate risk in every area.
Terrific. Thank you. A question from up the top there. Are you wearing Levi's jeans?
I've got a pair in my bag.
You're in.
Yeah.
Ask the question.
Cool. Very good. Hi, Dean Economou, visiting from Sydney. I come from a big government research lab there called NICTA. We obviously care about how you get innovation moving. This is probably mainly for Raj, but the other guests are welcome to answer. Raj, how much logistics optimization does FedEx do? Because, they can save vast amounts of time and energy. And how do you get the innovation happening in logistics? Because that culture can be a bit resistant to change.
Well, I think, we have definitely moved away from providing transportation to moving to providing supply chain and logistics solutions. And, the key here is information. And, for us, again, that's been heavily part of our DNA. Now, there's a lot of information within a customer, how they manage a particular logistics process and their ERPs and so on and so forth. But the key is, how does information travel across companies in the supply chain? And that's where I think there's obviously a lot of opportunity. And we can provide the information and work with our customer. In fact, we were talking earlier, in a previous life in a different company, and we worked with James here trying to for his company. So we do that now all over the world, providing information platforms that moves across the supply chain, not within their company. Obviously, they have that taken care of. And we connect them across the different companies.
Great. Another question. We'll do the one behind first of all, gentleman with the tie, and then gentleman in blue.
My name is Martin Apple from the Council of Scientific Society Presidents. I think I would say that this session and many others lead to a conclusion that the paradigm change that's occurring in the 21st century is not the evolutionary shift of the digital economy to manufacturing, but putting eco back into economy and making this into sustainable systems, green chemistry, green engineering, all the things that are accompanying it.
Okay. I think it was a statement or a question.
Agree.
We agree.
Yeah, and
so
let me just
we'll go
10 seconds on that.
10 seconds on that?
10 seconds on that is, we do have an obligation when our kids, and we all have kids, when they say, hey, Mom, Dad, you were in a position to do something in what you did. What did you do about it? And I want to be able to answer my kids and my grandkids and tell them the same stories we're telling you. So I think it's a really relevant point.
But what's interesting, it's no longer a distinction between that and driving a profitable business. What I think we're seeing today are opportunities to do both. And that is what is getting really exciting. We can be that innovative on top.
Gentleman, please.
Yes, I'm David Firth, University of Montana. There seems to be a conflict between what Chris Anderson was saying, the maker revolution, and what FedEx and Levi's does. I think Cisco's a part of the maker revolution. So could you speak to that potential conflict between a maker revolution, digital atoms, and you guys, what FedEx does and what Levi's does?
Yeah, so fly into San Francisco. When you fly in here, what do you see? From a Levi's lens, you see the most authentic, iconic, analog brand in America, probably. There, I said it. But at the other end of the peninsula, what do you see? You see the most progressive leading edge of digital dynamics happening globally with the Googles, with the Ciscos, with the Apples of the world. So to me, I think for us at Levi's, how do we create the synergy of analog and digital and truly bring the best solution forward that gives authenticity, heritage, originality, but helps drive innovation and forward thinking in a contemporary way? And if we get that balance right, everybody wins, certainly from a Levi's perspective.
I think it's a closed loop. I mean, you talk about the digital revolution, a lot of the activities in the internet space and so on and so forth, but the loop doesn't close without the physical space. I was just in Beijing, yesterday, talking to a lot of people about, the e-commerce boom that's going on in China. Well, it's fantastic, all these new companies, new value being created, but at the end of the day, the loop has to get closed on the physical side. So it's really how do we integrate the physical with the digital, and that's where the future is going.
Terrific. Thank you for some excellent questions. That was wonderful. You've heard about innovation from customer intelligence, innovation from introspection, innovation from joint inspiration. I've had 3 wonderful speakers. Imagine I'm the internet for a moment. I'm going to do some hyperlinks. I would very much encourage you to look online for each of these speakers because they have some wonderful things up there. You can see James singing the Beatles and also Bob Dylan. You can see Blair talking about marveling, both of those in TED Talks. Actually, James's one is about asking the right questions, which is a very important thing when it comes to innovation. And Raj, you can see some wonderful videos of Raj, which he's done for The Economist, so it's a little bit of a plug for us too. But he's talks about India, China, lots of different things that FedEx is involved in. So all 3 of them, please do go on the web and look for all that content. So that's our interactive session finished, and I'm going to please thank my panelists.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.